if you're an entrepreneur and you're a creative, it's not like being a doctor or a lawyer where you really need university. But I think a lot of kids demonize university because a lot of entrepreneurs speak about it, but it might be a wonderful thing for you, and you're still gonna be plenty young to be able to do your things. You just have to make a personal decision. First of all, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Just thank you. Yeah. You know, my story's very simple, not very complicated. I was born in the USSR in 1975. I came to America in 1978 as a young child. Our family was, you know, struggling. It was very hard to, you know, come over to the US at that time. It's chopping a little bit. And, you know, really the American dream was very alive and well during that era. My father got a job in a liquor store and worked his way up, and I was very entrepreneurial. Very early in my life, I realized I wanted to sell things, not be a good student, which was very unpopular. That was not the way the world was. But I believed in myself. I focused on what made me happy. Even today, as a successful businessman, there's many things that I do that are not the right thing to do financially, but they're the right things to do for me. The things that I like to do, the things that I want to do, and I think that's a very big part of the legacy that I want to leave. I want to convince people to fight for and strategize for and build for happiness and peace of mind much more than money.
ゲイの今の声っていうのは本当にお金じゃなくて本当にいろいろね本当になんかお金以上のものがあるよみんなそこを気づいてないのよだから NFT Web3 all good dude like a lot of money is moving but like you know Gary knows all the billionaires and millionaires and he's seen it right それ見てきた人たちが本当にお金じゃないって言ってるのね like we have to go for the happiness right you know like a lot of fucking NFT and Web3 is in Japan is super toxic too right so like you know today we want to celebrate you know learn from Gary you know he's the master at it you know I'm learning from him and you know 本当にいろいろ trying to be engaged you know we're just normal human being right so yeah so you know what he's saying you know he hustle a lot right same with me you know I hustle right so the NFT a lot of people think if you just buy it you know you get access to everything you become rich and shit but that's not how it works right so yeah right
yeah I think on that last point something that I'm very passionate about is hustle you know it's a word 20 years ago that was very important and very popular. In the last 10 years, not as much, because now people are more thoughtful about burnout and things of that nature, and I think that's wonderful. A lot of people try to position me as someone who just wants to work, and what they miss is, for me, my work is my happiness. It's my hobby. But no level of financial success is worth your health. Yes, hard work matters. Nobody achieves anything special without hard work. You can't hope to be successful. It's like working out. You're not gonna lose weight unless you exercise and eat properly, period. Same with work. You can't just get there. It does require a lot of work. However, it's a very, very important time in the world right now because we're very fortunate. Right now, the world is spending a lot of time demonizing social media, which I understand. I understand why the world's doing that. But there's always the other side. And the other side is people are learning things that we would have never learned without it. We're the first generation that hears a million different voices, not 3. The media in the 1970s in Japan, in America, in Russia, in China, in Australia, you heard 2 or 3 voices, and that was it. So what a million voices means is, yes, there's a lot of bad things you're gonna hear, but you're gonna hear a lot of great things you would have not heard otherwise. And that's up to you. to the point of NFTs and Web3, even in this short 2-year window, we've seen extreme highs and extreme lows. I secretly, this would be wrong, and I want to be very careful when I say this. It's not that I enjoy these last couple of months more than a year ago. A year ago, I'm universally praised. The last 100 days, far less. I don't enjoy that. First of all, I definitely don't enjoy if someone's upset or hurting or things of that nature. But to me, there's something intriguing about building something meaningful. When you build something meaningful, how many people here are parents and have children? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you have children. Can you ask that in general? So for all of you that raised your hand, and please repeat this, with children, there's ups and there's downs. Because it's the most meaningful thing. Same with building VeeFriends for me. I'm not building VeeFriends for yesterday, what the floor price was a year ago, what the floor price is today. I'm building it forever. And so I'm okay with the ebbs and flows. When you're building something meaningful, people are judging it every day, but that's like judging a meal before it's been cooked. And so I'm enjoying the process of building during this more challenging time, because during this challenging time, a lot of the people that don't have the stomach for it are gonna leave. And that's more opportunity for the people that have the stomach. God willing, I live a long life. I'm 47. I'd like to be here for at least another 47, hopefully a little bit more. But I'll probably take 47, but I prefer 57 more years. For me, when I started VeeFriends, I said, I'm gonna build something that's like, I would talk about Disney from an ambition standpoint, but the way I saw the universe play out was Pokemon meets Sesame Street. I know that these characters can make the world a better place. I know that I, as one person, over the last 10 years making content, have brought a lot of value to a lot of people.
だからね、ゲイリーがずっと永久にだからゲイリーが作ってるビーフレンドってそのキャラクターに意味があると。だからディズニーであったりっていうのはもちろんみんなが理解するからディズニーって言うけど、ね、セサミストリートみたいなそのキャラのやったりポケモンとかね、そのポケモンがあるおかげでその一つ一つのキャラがあってそこに意味があって人の人生をプラスにしてるからそれがすごい意味があると。だからこの B フレンドもこれから永遠に作っていくから絶対アップもダウンがあっても当たり前だっていう。本当にそういうの大事だと思うのよ。日本の人たちでこういう NFT のところでこういう話をしてる人ってすごい少ないから、だからね、本当にゲイの声って分かんないけど心に響くでしょ。It's like it's amazing how he talks. I don't know what kind of drug he does, but the way he talks is like he hits you in the fucking heart, right?
Let me tell you the drug, and I want everyone. I'll tell you the drug right now. The drug of my choice is gratitude.
Gratitude. 感謝の気持ちだったり、それってありがとうとか、それって人に対してのそのね気持ちっていうのがすごい大事なんだと思う。
The advantage I had was I grew up with very little, but I was very happy.
だからまあ生きててね、だから最初にね USSR ってソビエトのベラルーシというとこからで移民をしたわけよアメリカに。で he didn't have anything, right? そうお金が全然なく貧困に育ったからだけどすごい幸せだったのよ。You know, he had a great family, great parents.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I know that happiness is not money. So I'm grateful for everything I have. Everything. Not the fancy things I have now, everything. The thing I'm most grateful for is the people I love are healthy. After that, I can control everything else. You know? It's true. It's true.
Are you feeling this vibe? Japanese people, that people have the gratitude in deep down, this is the culture actually.
It's funny, I have a marketing company, so I have VeeFriends, but I also run a very big marketing company, and we have an office here. And I was just with, 15, 20 of our employees, and one of them asked me, about how I felt about Japan, and I explained 47, grew up in New York, New Jersey. You know, grew up in the liquor business and built a very big liquor business. And so even 20 years ago, we were selling more Japanese whiskeys and more sake than most people in America. So I've always had that connection. But then on top of it, I've always loved comic books and video games and sneakers and streetwear. So Japan has always been a very on a pedestal culture because so many of the things that I've been interested in for the last 40 years of my life started here. And, you know, and so I've always had a very warm, you know, my business life has dictated where I've been in the world. So I've never really spent time here, but ironically, it's one of the most meaningful countries in the world and cultures in the world for the things that I'm interested in.
聞いてると思うけど、やっぱりゲイはその、ね、漫画であったり、そのカルチャーであったり、ポップコルチャーであったり、そういうのがすごい好きなのね、本当に心から。で、I'm a basketball collector too. I like sneakers, I like pop culture. That's why, I like Resy and Empathy a lot. でもそういうものって日本から来てるのもめちゃくちゃ多いのよ。で、a lot of NFT project, they're taking Japanese kind of comics, art, and all this stuff, and they're kind of using that. I'm not saying that's bad. だけど日本人は日本人ですごいいいものを持ってて、でだからこそ日本ってすごい価値があると思うのよ。I think there's a big value. Like Japan has a lot of IP. Japan has so much to offer, right? You guys have to just understand, open eyes, and don't try to be like closed down and just do everything yourself. Try to work with people like Gary and people around the world because there's so much opportunity. A lot of people think Japanese brand is really hard.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, I don't think, and this is not a Japanese thing, this is an American thing, a Japanese thing, a Europe thing, an Africa thing. Most people don't realize how connected the world is. Every person here is literally actually connected. And obviously Japan has a uniqueness because Line as a social platform is one of the few platforms in the world that is dominant in one place and not the rest. But the Twitter and YouTube and Instagram culture in Japan is quite meaningful. And I just don't think people understand how connected the world is. Japanese culture is inherently creative. And I think the world is becoming more creative. I think artificial intelligence is going to take us to a place where people that are critical thinkers and creatives are going to be even more valuable, not less. And so I would encourage people here to do what you've been doing and what many people have been doing and realize that their phone is the gateway to the entire universe, for real. You don't need to think in just Tokyo terms, you don't need to think in just Japanese terms, you don't need to think in just Asian terms, you need to think about the world.
まあね、ゲイが言ってるように、俺も常に言ってるんだけど、本当に超大事なのが、やっぱりグローバルマインドセットを持って、スマホがもうつながるのよ、世界に。だけど、やっぱり日本の人って、やっぱりドメスティックに行きがちだし、そういうところはもっと、Yeah, I had a question.
Please.
A lot of Japanese people, they tend to be super, they're focusing. I've been talking to a lot of founders country, but their Japanese economy is big enough that they want to focus on Japan.
Makes sense.
They don't want to go globally. A lot of people here, maybe half they can speak English, but normally probably 99% they don't speak English.
Yep.
So what do you say to them, dude? I've been pushing them to just go global, just because that's one of the things, and work with people like you. There's a lot of good projects outside, and that's why we want to fill the gap between.
Terry, to be honest with you, I think both work. I think if you're not going global because you're scared, then you should push yourself because fear is fake.
Yeah.
Translate that, because that's important.
So, fear って怖さとか危うさっていうのはフェイクだと。それは偽物だと。基本的に俺も言ってることだけど、怖さって自分でね作り上げてることじゃない。だから他の人がどう思うんだろう。A lot of people think, oh shit, what the fuck other people's gonna think when you do some kind of action, right? But you're creating that inside your head. 自分の頭の中で全部それを作り上げてるわけよね。だから本当はその怖くないのよ。Like I tell like Japanese people, you guys should be happy as fuck, dude, because you guys have the best fucking convenience store, it's safe as fuck, you know, everything is great in here, right? So like, I'm here, I'm like, oh shit, this country is amazing, right? And like, you look at Japanese people and they're like, their face is all dead and shit, and I'm like, you live in fucking New Jersey or something, you have to think like, you know, like, right? You have to look yourself in the back and watch out for, you know.
Well, that's because humans take what's going well for them for granted.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you know, そのだから人間はそういう自分になんか慣れてきたことにそれ忘れちゃうとね。だ本当に like Japan is one of the best fucking country in the world. You know, I mean.
And that goes to the point where I was saying either could work. Japan is big enough for most people's ambition. So if you just want to be big in Japan, that's beautiful. I don't think that's a bad thing.
But
on the flip side,
okay, go ahead.
on the flip side, to your point, this is going to resonate. Japan's culture is so specific, which is why it's had so much success around the world, that a lot of people don't realize that it's easier for them to be successful of what they're trying to provide value for outside of Japan than within Japan. And it depends on what you're doing, but it's a very important insight. You may find a bigger audience around the world just through your phone and your laptop than in your backyard on what you do, because here it's a commodity, but out there it's not.
これめちゃくちゃ重要で、めちゃくちゃ重要で、like listen, what he said was like, you know, it's worth, you know, like fucking lot of money, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, so what he said was 本当は日本で今やってること、日本なんか別に俺は言ってる国内でも国外でもどっち行ってもいいとね。で別に国外にも日本ってマーケットが大きいから it's cool, right? だけどゲイが言ってるのって日本はすごいユニークなのよ。特殊なのね。だからもしかしたらその特殊な能力が国内でした方が楽だとみんな思うから国内でするのね。だけどその特殊な能力ってみんな日本だと同じように特殊な能力持ってるわけです。もしかしたら海外で行った方がそれがの価値を見出してくれるところはもっと外にあるんじゃないかと。だけどみんな国内の方が簡単だと思うから国内だけにフォーカスしがちなのね。だから自分のその能力が世界ではめちゃくちゃ価値があるかもしれない。例えばつけ麺みたいに。No, I have one question here. One thing I tell a lot of, especially like people to go global, like they should have a mindset of global because Japan's population decline is crazy right now.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about a project, you know, building something long term, and I totally agree. Going, you know, you can't forget Japan as a market because it's pretty big, you know. But you also have to think about, you know, the population, declining of population, bringing more value inside to the country.
Yes, comma, that takes a long time, and for a lot of people here, that's not going to really ultimately drive them to do it. I think the biggest reason everyone here should think global is when you think global, you get more context. You might notice something in Scandinavia. You may notice something in Russia. You may notice something in Brazil. You may notice something in America that is not happening here. One of the biggest reasons to go global is not to extract your culture to global. It's to see an insight that's working somewhere else that you feel can work in your culture. The more context, the more you see, the more you have a chance of coming up with a decision that is going to be beneficial. So I would argue one of the reasons to go global, look global, consume global content, spend time outside, is potentially to impact your business here with a product or service that was working somewhere else that is not here, or a tweak that can make it work here.
Great. No, it's amazing. It's like だからその海外に行くのってただ単に例えばお金儲けとかただ単にねその人口が減少するとかいうのも一つの例だけどみんなにとってピンとこないわけだよね。だけどゲイが言うのは そのね、その視野を広げたら、スキャンデネビアであったり、ロシアであったり、で、自分がもう今してる価値があると思って、自分がやってることが、あれ、この文化でも似たような考えを持っていて、俺いけるんじゃないか、ちょっと変更するだけで、その人たちは自分を取り入れてね、だから同じ文化をね、相手に合わせるじゃなくて、輸入だけじゃなくて、もう自分たちがしてることが他の国でも全部取れる可能性があるっていうことを言ってる。だから、it's pretty cool, right? Like, 視野を広げるだけで、いろんなものが広げるわけですよ。可能性が広がるわけですよ。There's like opportunity out there, right? You know, if I lived in Japan, like I grew up in Japan until I was 6, right? I went to the US and like, you know, I hated that fucking country, but, you know, yeah, but like, there's so much fucking opportunity there, right? You know, without fucking Gary, I don't know about VeeFriends, and without Gary, and you know, she's no baby, right? So, yeah. So it was, you know, like, this is all connected, right? So you have to look at outside. There's so much opportunity. If you don't like outside, it's all good. You know?
Then there's also taking things for granted that are special. For example, I'm looking around right now. I have done thousands of conferences and talks like this in my life. Of the thousands of conferences that I've done where there's been name tags, I can tell you right now, looking around this room, this is the most creative name tags I've ever seen. Almost half the people here drew a character or did on their name tag, or played with their name. For all of you, that just feels normal. Yes, you know, like when you look around, yes, you might have wrote it, just your name, but all the people that went creative, that just seems normal to you. That's part of the culture. But I am very fortunate and have been around the world. It is not normal. This goes back to why you have to really understand how powerful the uniqueness of a culture is and how that scales.
まあだからまあゲイリーがねまたも言ってるのは、そのやっぱりこの自分たちのクリエイティブなセンスがこのネームタグってさえもう一つ一つそこにキャラクターができるわけ。そのなんか今まで何千っていうところで話してきて、やっぱりこのねちょっとでもそのクリエイティビティっていうのが日本人ではもう表現するのがもう当たり前というか、だけどその当たり前とその他の世界を見た時の当たり前がない時に、これが当たり前だからみんなはあんまりそれにピンとこないというか、おすげえなってならないわけね。だけどそこの自分たちがもう持ってるものっていうのに本当にそこに対してなんかね一人一人が感謝の気持ちを持ってどんだけ自分もうめちゃくちゃ武器あるのよ。Japan has so much weapon that you can fucking like, you know, if you just use it right, if you know how to use it right, that's the one thing that I want, like I really want you to come to Japan because we have a great people. These are people like, you know, community that I'll die for, you know. I will tell everybody that if Gary's gonna be disrespectful to my community, I'm gonna tell him to fuck off and just go out, you know. Even though I love you so much, but you know, I care about my community a lot, you know, these are great people. But, you know, they just don't know how to do it. You know, I wanted to ask you about that too.
The how is very simple. It's not very revolutionary at this point. The world today runs on social media. The world runs on social media. It just does. Meaning, it is crazy. For whatever you want to happen, as long as you're able to produce content on the 4 to 5 platforms that matter in this country, or the world, you have a chance. That's crazy. You know, for all of us in this room that are over 40 years old, you know, that was not how we grew up. You didn't have a chance. Somebody had to discover you. Now, you're discovering yourself. You're putting yourself out there. The biggest hurdle in the world is too many people in this room value what other people think about their content. And one of my favorite things about this culture is that respect is put on such a pedestal, like enormous. And I believe that that is actually even more important today than it was 20 years ago, because a lot of the rest of the world continues to lose its place with being respectful. However, there is a way to be respectful and still enjoy your life and be creative. And I think that is the biggest challenge. I think that this, and this is generalizing, the culture has not figured out how to stay respectful, but be able to be an individual or be creative or be disruptive. And that is a challenge that needs to be figured out.
You got my point, dude. It's like, you know, Gary went to sit down. Like, what he said was really important, right? What he said was, 文化が、日本の文化がまだ理解してないんじゃないかと。で、これはもちろんジェネライズとか一般的なことっていうことで話してるんだけれども、基本的にはそのリスペクト、自分の文化を、日本がダメだじゃないの。I respect Japanese culture a lot too, right? で、日本の文化とリスペクトしながら、それでいて自分の行きたい道を生きる、自分のクリエイティビティとか自分の表現とかそういうのを出せるっていうのがまだ俺も思うんだけどバランスができてないと思うのよ。で、だからこそ俺は個人的に Web3 とか NFT がそのバランスをまあ完璧じゃないけどスタートできるものかなと思う。だからそれもゲイに聞いてみよう。Okay, before you go to
Real quick though, I want to build on this because I've been, as you were talking, I was thinking, America wins so much on innovation because people are cheered for when they break things. Right? When people look at me, a lot of times people misjudge me because I'm not conforming. But that doesn't mean I'm being disrespectful. I'm just being curious.
だからこれもめちゃくちゃいいことで、そのアメリカがなぜ勝つのかって言った時にイノベーションじゃん、まあ、新しいものを作る。なぜかというとアメリカの文化ってこの今従来あるものをブレイク、潰す、壊すことを良しとされてる、みんなが応援するのよ。新しいものが生まれることをすごいみんなは称えるというかいいことだと思ってるのよ。でも知っての通り日本の文化ってそうじゃない、真逆じゃん。It's opposite, right? We don't want to break things. We want to keep it for as long as possible. We want to use it for as long as possible. And that's great too. 日本の文化が that's great thing about Japan, preserving, there's 1,000-year-old like fucking hotel still there. That's amazing. But, as you say, like, do you want to lose everything? Do you want to, if you can't be yourself, what are you going to do with 1,000-year-old fucking building, right?
Yeah, if you don't love a 1,000-year hotel, you shouldn't have to love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean you don't respect it.
Yeah.
It just means you don't love it. You want to stay in a hotel that was built last year. That's okay. And I think the ideology sometimes suppresses. I mean, this is one of the most interesting cultures in the world. The front-facing facade versus its underbelly is one of the biggest extremes in the world.
まあこれ言ったように本当に自分が好きなことをやればいいのね。だから別に今までの従来が大事だからとか他の人がこれがすごいね、まあ大事なこととか価値があるものだって言っても自分がそう思わなかったらそれでいいと。で、こんな日本みたいにこれもすげえ俺も言うけど、その表と裏、これはみんな知ってるじゃん。表と裏がめちゃくちゃギャップある文化ってこの世を見てもすごい珍しいと。
And if an American who's never been here knows that, you're not tricking anyone.
だからね、こうやってゲームも first time, right? Yeah.
Yes, but I really want you to deliver that sentence because it might matter to somebody.
Which one?
Which is what I just said, which is the front-facing facade versus the reality of what's happening when no one's looking is the biggest extreme in the world. If I know that, then you're not tricking anyone.
だからまあこれもみんなもう知ってることだと思うのよ。本当に表と裏のありえないことだよ。でゲームみたいに外人でも吸ってんだったらもうね、もう隠してもうバレてんだよっていう。だってもうね、子供いないから駅前からラバーが見てる時点でもう怪しいわけだよ。もうなんか日本っていろいろそういうなんかインド文化とかがなんか隠そうと実はしてるけれども、実際はもうみんな知ってるわけじゃん。パチンコがギャンブルだっていうことを知ってるわけじゃん。It's cool, you embrace it, right? But その今までの文化で Do you want to live with that? それで自分がいい。最終的には Are you happy? That's it, right? だからそこがすごい大事なのよ。Yeah, I have a question. These people, a lot of people here are somewhat, artists, founders. They're connected to Web3. They're intrigued by innovation and the future that what brings Web3. And what I think, when I saw you with the VeeFriend, I was collecting, I like basketball cards and I'm collecting your rare shit. I spent a lot of fucking money, but it's all good. I got to meet you. But what led me to start creating a community was when I went to New York, met you, and met all the different community members, right? I'm like, oh shit, this is like connecting people. It's not only about the fucking picture that you fucking drew and shit. But and I'm like, oh shit, can this be some kind of tool to help Japanese creators, artists,
100%.
founders?
First of all, the most similar to what I said earlier about literally the last thing, the facade of respect and proper versus what happens after hours is the same thing that's happening in NFT land. The last year when everyone's like community, 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 it wasn't community. People wanted to make money. Thank you, Mikey. And the reason I feel comfortable saying that now, as maybe you and you and you and maybe a couple other people here know, I was saying that when everything was hot. And so, but that's okay, because the truth is it can be about community if the leaders of the project want it to be, right? VCon, the conference I threw that many of you who were here went to, that is community. Like we've been spending all year for what's about to happen in mid-May again. That is a true community event. Even the people that are most disappointed at me will always say, but I can't wait for VCon or this and that. And so you can build community. This right here, right now, this second, I don't need to be here. I don't have to be here. I want to be here because I love that. So, but here's what's most interesting. When you sell a Spider-Man, when you sell a Power Ranger, when you sell a Pokemon trading card or that hat, the company doesn't know who owns it.
Yeah.
The company does not know, but I know, or I have the ability to know when I innovate and create something like Burn Island, that some of you may know here, that enables me to do things. I could, if I wanted, take a Series 2 NFT from VeeFriends and say, if you burn it, then you can do this or that, right? I don't know that he has that common sense cow toy, now I know. But I definitely know if he has the common sense cow VeeFriend. And what I knew when I went all in on NFTs 2 years ago was basically how real this all could be. I definitely did not think the extremes of the high and the extremes of the low would be this extreme in this short period of time, because even I continue to underestimate people's short-term greed. Even I, who's pretty good at this. So that has been interesting, and that's why I myself am not in a perfect spot, because I got my own self caught up in the excitement of like what was happening. But that doesn't take away from the long-term truth, which is what you observed when you came is true. When we have Comic-Con, when we have Disney World, whatever these things can bring people together. But again, the affirmation of using who owns something on the block, this is why the blockchain is profound. Anything can happen with the asset around the world, and yet still I can create an execution that creates affirmation of who owns it. That is a really powerful tool for community building and gives the power to the creator if she or he chooses to always bring value. For me, that is the only thing that allows me to have peace of mind. Even the most disappointed in me because they bought at the top and now they're down because the people that bought on mint day continue even at this point, but series 2, no. That's a lot of fucking people. That's a lot of stress for me. That's every day I think about that. What gives me peace of mind is I have time to do the right thing. Now, a lot of people won't believe me and they'll sell and they won't be there for when it's good again, but I can't control people's actions. I can keep speaking to what I do every day, which is I am committed to this project. Many of the projects from just last year have already sold or abandoned their products. I'm not gonna do that. I would argue that if you want to jump in, you should not do that. If you're gonna do it because you're in it for the long haul. The decision that I made that was smart was, oh, this is gonna have ups and downs, it's early. I was old enough to know how Web 1 and Web 2 worked, so I knew that if I was gonna go into it, let me build something I actually wanna build forever, because I'm gonna need to build forever to win this, otherwise I'm vulnerable to timing. Everything that somebody has to say about VeeFriends or Bored Ape or Cool Cats or any project is just based on today. They were saying something different 6 months ago or 12 months ago, and they'll say something different 6 months from now. When you're an operator of the project, you can't be caught up in that because you'll be crippled. You need to just keep building value. It's hard for me to sit right now and be criticized or ridiculed or questioned on my morals, but I have to bear down and deal with that pain, because for me to actually create value, it requires work and business development and time. And so I'm building every day, and it's, you know, it's one thing, it's a very big challenge right now for a lot of the operators of these projects, because I'm used to building in silence. When I was building VaynerMedia and I had 3 bad years, that was just pain for myself with myself. But there was nobody from the outside telling you what to do, not what to do, and this and that. You have to be incredibly empathetic to the community and the people that are involved, that bought into you. You have to be respectful of that. But you have to find the balance of what you're trying to achieve, and especially for me, because I have a meaningful track record, I've been successful, I feel more confident today than I did a year ago. Not less, more. But and you know this, and Mike, you know this, and you know this, and some of you may know this, I'm not as loud about it because I don't want to create speculation. That's what I learned last year. The louder I am, the more likely I could create speculation, which then really causes the disappointment. So I'm just better off doing what I need to do and build, but that's what this world allows you to do. For me, it's exciting. I'll give you a good example. I'm gonna go very nerdy, but I want people to hear this because I hope it helps them. For me, it's so fun that I can do an execution in 2 years that says, if you have the Series 1 VeeFriend and the evolving Series 2, because in Series 2, I gave everybody a free Series 2 if they had a Series 1, but it had a special thing where it was coming out of the design of my shitty drawings.
No, I love your drawing, dude. It's like...
And you know, that's very powerful that you can see, because of the way we built our website, where you connect your wallet, even if you transferred it, I can still tell that it was yours the whole time. To be able to reward, you know, Marvel, Pokemon, DC, Hello Kitty, they can't, it's very hard for them to reward loyalty. They can't see it. They can see you bought stuff in their store, but it's hard. The fact that I can see every person that's never sold their Series 1 or their Series 2, and then create a special NFT for that character, for the very small group, that's so cool. That's so powerful. These are things that pre the blockchain we could never imagine. So for all the people here that are thinking about creating, the way we can dream, the way we can create, the way we can reward these collectors is pretty powerful. And you know, I just view this as the early, I don't, 99% of the people outside of this room in Tokyo, in New York, in Los Angeles, in Stockholm, in Sao Paulo, in Moscow, 99% of people haven't even begun to wrap their head around what an NFT is. You have a small group on Discord and Twitter, and I mean tiny, tiny group. We have 8 billion people on Earth. You're talking about tens of thousands of people that are navigating and think like this is it. This is the rules. This is not the rules. We haven't even begun to think about writing the rules. So it's very early, which requires a lot of empathy, a lot of patience, a lot of compassion. There's gonna be a lot of highs and lows, but the creativity, and this goes back to bringing it full service to Japan, the creativity that the blockchain and NFTs specifically can do that can unlock the creativity of the world is profound. And I think, as painful as it's been for me and many other people, this last 6 months, in 6 months, it's gonna become normalized. It's gonna be like, this is now what it is. And the lessons that all of us have learned, from me to you, to you, to you, the lessons we've all learned will make the next cycle more healthy, and the next one will be more healthy, and the next one will be more healthy. And that's how this is gonna work out. Like, it's just very beautiful to be involved with something very early on, but it comes with a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and I think we're all navigating through it.
Yeah, it's like.
Translate all that.
Okay. So like, this is first time come to Japan. So are you gonna come to Japan more? What do you see in Japan?
Yeah, so why this trip is very exciting for me is, you know, it's been a place that has been on my list forever. Now that are between the fact that this next 3 to 5 years is extremely important for VeeFriends, and that VaynerX and VaynerMedia are growing here, you know, to me, I feel like I have to be here at least twice a year going forward.
So can I'm gonna put you on the spot. Are you gonna do this every time you come here? Can you make it happen?
Done.
Replying emails, email返信全くしないんだけど、but
4,000 emails a day, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
but, you know, one thing
Are we here?
Yeah, you're here. You know, that's the problem. So, you know.
There's a lot of people that will respond to the email but not be here.
Yeah, true. No, like, I really think what you're doing with the VeeFriend, I think, you know, there should be a big VeeFriend Japan community, because what you know, the reason I started following you is like, I've been doing mentoring program for 15 years, and you said a lot of stuff that's like exactly what I say. You know, that why it's important. I don't know why, but like a lot of stuff that you said, I think resonates with Japanese culture.
I listen, me not being here often is just the serendipity of my business life. You know, if, for example, if I had stayed in the liquor business, the explosion of Japanese whiskey and sake would have probably brought me here twice a year for buying trips. That's just serendipity. But as a culture, both from a popular culture and creative standpoint, and from a psychological, think about how I've been speaking about Japan here today. I pay attention. I watch. What I do for a living is watch the world. So I agree with you. I think there is incredible upside for the message that I'm passionate about, both delivering as a human being or through the characters of, and by the way, when for example, on the flight here, I probably spent 4 to 5 hours on character development, right? So I spend a lot of time because, you know, VeeFriends is a very unusual NFT project. Most NFT projects have a character and there's a lot of variation. A Bored Ape, a World of Women, right? A cool cat, a pudgy penguin, and then there's just rarities. VeeFriends is a universe of many different characters, so it's different. So I have a lot of work to do for character development, because at the end of the day, and people ask me this a lot, as you know, in the Discord, VeeFriends can be successful, but what does that mean for me as an NFT holder? Well, Spider-Man is successful, and people that own Spider-Man the comic book are in a very good place. I view VeeFriends as a collectible that has utilitarian capabilities to it if I want to, given the blockchain. My number one job is to make the world fall in love with these characters. That's my number one job. So anyway, to tell the full story, on the flight here, I was working on the characters. Right now what I'm working on is establishing the voice of every character, all of them, right? Everybody here knows what Pikachu sounds like, right? You know what it sounds like, or Bugs Bunny, or what have you. So I'm doing that right now. So it's really fun. I also am very fortunate. I'm creating the voice during the era of artificial intelligence. So I'm gonna be able to create the voice, but not be reliant on an actor. I'm gonna be able to create the voice, but then anybody here can read a script and it'll be the voice. So it's very powerful, very cool. I'm working on it. Anyway, long story short, on the flight here, back to thinking about Japan as a market, one of the characters that I have is called the Curious Crane, right? And on the flight here, I was like, you know, and we talked about it already in this talk, one of the things that I'd love to see more in Japanese culture is understanding the power of curiosity, because I think conforming when you get older is the culture, and I think being curious is what unlocks the opportunity. So literally on the flight here, in my notes, I'm like, in the notes, I was like, Curious Crane might need to be more important in Japan than other players. I may develop that character more seriously here. Nice catch. And so, you know, I'm really excited about that. And, you know, I think just being able to be thoughtful of where the message resonates. All the message is universal, but every culture, every gender, every race, every country, every region has moments in time. The America that I live in today is different than the America I lived in 20 years ago, right? China is in a very different place culturally today than it was even just 10 years ago. And so things ebb and flow. And so I'm excited about that, and it literally happened 12 hours ago on a plane where I was like, you know what, going to Japan, one of the things that I observe is a very big lack of curiosity from its citizens. And maybe this character, the Curious Crane, maybe I need to be very focused on that in Japan for that reason. And that's something I'm looking forward to doing over the next 50 years.
So I think, you know, you're busy and everything. One thing I wanted to talk about was the VCon, right? So so like we went to VCon, I brought like students here, you know, all the people in the VCon. VaynerCommerce っていうのは NFT の最大のイベントをリエリーがやってるのね。そんで、It's crazy. スピーカーリストとかいっぱい見ても So, can you tell me one thing what that's kind of different that you're gonna be doing this year from last year? And is it worth for Japanese people to go?
It's a long flight, so I'm empathetic. Couple things that are going to be different. Number one, last year the programming was very heavily Web3, very much NFT, a lot of education. This year, I thought it was super important to broaden out the subject, so there's a lot more business and marketing, broad talk. So the content's different. I know that some of you paid very close attention. Already the speaking lineup is pretty epic. This week, we're announcing a whole nother batch that's really, really crazy. So I think the quality of speakers from top to bottom are dramatically stronger. The activations on the field are much stronger than last year. The app is built in a way that is going to really encourage for more interaction. But really, the thing that I'm most focused on is, if you remember the opening keynote last year, I talked about it being like summer camp. Like you'd come back and see your best friends and things of that nature. And so I really less walking the stairs. There was, you know, like the way we're conforming it is gonna allow for people to bump into each other more. We're encouraging in the activations a lot more interacting with each other, because that's by far been the feedback that people that went last year, the relationships they met are so high. So evolution of content, evolution of like walk patterns and serendipity, and much stronger brand and micro activations that are not just the content on the stage are three heavy focuses.
本当に you guys don't understand who Gary Vee is. Yeah. No, I think, you know, 本当にみんなに I've been telling you, like I've been doing Twitter space, I've been trying to, you know, you guys don't understand, like I've been hyping you up so much, but I'm still saying I'm under, you know, like, you know, saying that because we know who Gary Vee is in fucking US, right? In New York.
But I think the most fun part is going through the journey, right? When I hear that, it's so flattering, but equally my brain goes into, you know, even you said it earlier, I'm like, I'm a guy. Everyone's a guy or a girl. Like it's not super crazy. On the flip side, when you do reach a level of demand or interest or awareness, for me at least, I enjoy the journey more than getting there. So in a lot of ways, building a presence for VeeFriends and for myself in Japan is like a real pleasure. Like, you know, I'm excited about it, and more importantly, you know, I ask myself this a lot, and you've said it a couple of times here, and I'm spending time with all of you right now, and I'm paying attention to what's resonating as much as anything else. I ask myself, I feel like when I go to sleep tonight, I'm gonna say to myself, you know, I wonder if this is one of those things where this is such an important market for my message that the timing needed to be right. And either serendipity or God or me subconsciously knew to not come premature until I was ready. I'm on a much stronger foundation today to scale this message than I was 10 years ago. And so I'm just very grateful, and I will never forget this night, because this is the first public thing I've ever done in this beautiful country, and I just thank all of you for being here.
本当にゲイがすごい人で、本当にこれ何回言っても足りないぐらいにyou know, but you know, ゲイが今回すごい大事って言ってるのはその過程なんだよね。そのみんなやっぱり結果だけを見てたら理想だけを見てるけど、その過程を楽しむから今日本ではゲイをまだまだ知られてなくて、でだけどこの一つ一つ作っていく過程をすごい大事にして、それが楽しいと。だから今回VeeFriendsとかここで日本で作っていくのも自分にとってはすごい楽しいことだし、今ここ日本にいてこれが初めてのこうやってね一般的に話すことっていうのが、これはこの日は絶対忘れない。で、You guys are here the day、 これはもう歴史的なことだからね。だから Gary's gonna be, you know, hey, you know, if you like what he's saying, right? You know, 彼がすごい人になると思うのであれば、ここにいるだけでも you guys should be happy, right? You know, and you guys should thank your friends, family, anybody who brought you here, right? And because this is a special night, you know.
I think the most important thing to teach is the elimination of fear. I think fear is the biggest poison to children. I think parents use fear on children to make them do what they want. And so I do think critical thinking is incredibly important, but I think if you were able to build self-esteem, confidence, and if you're able to have your child not be scared to fail, then you will have a very happy child. You can have all the skills in the world, but if you're scared, you're finished. So for me, the meaning of life is very, very simple. It comes in two places: to be selfish and to be selfless. Selfishly, I want to be happy every day. I want to do what I want to do. I want to. Every morning when I wake up, I want to do what I want to do. And then selflessly, for me personally, I realize that the way I communicate resonates with many, 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 many people. And I find that most people that communicate in a way that many people listen to communicate for their needs. And it's very important for me to use my voice to communicate, to bring value to others. Here's what I would say. Entrepreneurship, true entrepreneurship, you're gonna learn by doing it more than reading about it. You can watch all my videos, you can go to university. Entrepreneurship is like exercise. You have to do it to actually get it. On the flip side, a lot of people think that when I make videos, America has a very, very, very different university system than most places in the world. In America, the university system is very, very, very negative for the person because most Americans, go into debt when they go to university. Unlike most of the rest of the world where university is very low cost or provided for you, in America, it's a business, it's very expensive, and because every parent pushes their kids to go to university, a lot of parents can't afford to pay for university, so the child goes to university and they don't want to, and they collect very big debt. Not $5,000, $80,000, $100,000 with very high interest. So when I make videos and say, for a lot of you, you don't have to go to university, it's a very American reality, first of all, but it is a global thing. Here's what I would say. I was the worst student. I was the most self-aware that I was an entrepreneur, but I went to university because I loved my parents and they wanted me to. I treated it as a vacation. It was a 4-year vacation. And I knew that the day I left, I was gonna work very hard. And it was true. For 4 years at university, I did not work hard at all. I played video games, I hung out with my friends, I played basketball, I played spades and dice, and I had a great time. And my parents were happy. So you could go to university and make your mom happy, because even when you leave university, you're gonna be a very young man. The other thing is, you're also gonna meet people at university that might be interesting, partners, things of that. There is no right answer. Everybody here has a different thing. But it is okay to do things to make your parents happy. It is okay. But you don't necessarily need it to be a successful creative or entrepreneur. On the flip side, a lot of people are not successful entrepreneurs or creatives when they decide to be. In some countries, like the US, every day, more and more companies do not require a university degree. Japan is still grounded in a lot of tradition, and I think it is more required. For example, in VaynerMedia, in my company, I have no idea. First of all, we don't require a college degree anymore, and that's becoming more and more common. So I think the whole world will go there, but to answer your question, it's a very individual answer. If you're an entrepreneur and you're a creative, it's not like being a doctor or a lawyer where you really need university. But I think a lot of kids now demonize university because a lot of entrepreneurs speak about it, but it might be a wonderful thing for you, and you're still gonna be plenty young to be able to do your things. You just have to make a personal decision. And by the way, you're only 15 now. You may change your mind 3 times, 6 times, 10 times before you have to make that decision, and that's okay too.
Yeah, thanks so much for the answer.
The other thing I'll tell you, which is a left field, very different conversation. I think one of the biggest things that kids need to learn is how to deal with inconvenience. So one of the reasons I kind of like a lot of entrepreneur or creative people to go to university for their parents is I want them to go through 4 years of being inconvenienced. Because right now, the world's biggest problem is that a lot of people struggle with any level of inconvenience. And so one of the unique things about going to university for your parents, not for yourself, is you're building tolerance to do things that you don't want to do. And right now the world is struggling with being good at that. I just said that I like waking up every day and doing what I want to do. 85% of my day is doing shit I don't want to do. The macro, I'm doing what I want to do. But the micro, day to day, I'm doing unlimited things I don't want to do because I've built up the tolerance to be inconvenienced or eat shit for 6 months to achieve the bigger mission. The world has made it very good for kids now. We're really soft on inconvenience. We don't like when kids cry. We don't like when kids are upset, and everyone's gotten very soft. So one of the unique things about your journey is, believe it or not, going to university for your parents at your own discomfort might actually prepare you for entrepreneurship more than anything else. You have to understand, life is too complex to think there's a right answer, right? I say it all the time, like, people think they're gonna make the right decision. You have no idea how it's gonna work out. You know, I usually use the example of me not investing in Uber, right? Literally one of my best friends. Literally the 3 months prior, the 3 months after, I was investing in all sorts of dumb shit, but I passed on investing on Uber twice. And if I wrote a $50,000 check, it would have been $500 million. And so it's very easy to say, my God, this was a terrible decision. But in my mind, I'm too happy as I sit here with you right now to think it was a bad decision. And if I made that decision, my life would be completely different. And then the way I like to tell this story is, maybe it would have brought me to a different speech or a different conference or a different meeting. And maybe I wasn't paying attention when I was crossing the street and I got hit by a car and I'd be dead today if I invested in Uber. People are pessimistic. They think the decision they made that didn't work out, because it's easy to see that it didn't work out, they don't take into the complexity of life. You may go to college, a university, and you don't want to, but you might meet your best friend in the whole world. And that person might go on to become Elon Musk. You know, and so you just don't know. You really don't know. And so for all of us, whether it's university or having children or moving or changing your job, humans are so silly. Once you make a decision, you can't dwell on that decision anymore. You have no idea how that would have changed your life. Every restaurant, every building, every week, everything in your life is different forever. And we should look at it optimistically, not pessimistically.
Why did you decide to work with A-Ships or Terry?
You know, I think, I said this earlier to the team, I think a lot about what do we not know today that every human being in 50 years is gonna know. Today, every one of us here knows certain things about the heart or cancer or weather or medicine that 100 years ago nobody knew. And I always say to myself, what are we doing right now, right here, right now, that in 70 years every person's gonna know and we have no idea? And my favorite one that I think about is intuition. I believe today, as we sit here today, there is very little knowledge and very little respect, even less respect, because there is some knowledge. There's very little knowledge and even less respect for the stomach. We think about the brain. We know our brain, but the second thing that runs our life is this brain. And nobody talks about it. And I mean nobody. And so I have come to realize I listen to this second brain more than I listen to this brain. And it has serviced me very well. And so I was telling that story to the team earlier, like how I think intuition is underrated. On the way here, I just said I was doing character development. I was recording on my phone a huge thing on intuitive iguana in VeeFriends because I want intuition to be understood. A lot of people here have made a lot of mistakes because they have not listened to this and they listen to this instead. Because the world says we should not listen to this. The answer to your question of why I decided to work with is because I listened to this. That's why.
いやでも本当に今の言葉すごい大事だと思ってて、やっぱり